Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I watched the first part of the hearing this morning, but the one this afternoon, I just pooped out on that one. So the takeaway that I had from the one this morning, though, the main takeaway was that Vindman is the person who told the guy that's a whistleblower, he who shall not be named, and that is where the whistleblower got his source. Okay, we know that. And it's very obvious. Anyone with a brain knows it now, because if Adam Schiff would not have made such a big deal out of it, then there wouldn't have been a problem. But of course, Adam claims that he doesn't know who the whistleblower is, and yet he stopped him from naming him. So it makes no sense. It's contradictory. Adam Schiff is lying, period. But then we all knew that, right? So that really wasn't anything new. This afternoon's was much better, and, I've seen some clips from it. There were a lot of really good things in that, too. But I just couldn't get to it, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow because there's more. Of course, that's the day you're going to see this. That's on Wednesday. So anyway, but I wanted to bring this to you. Now, I cannot speak for who this person is. It's somebody on Twitter. And you know that people can pretend to be anything they want on Twitter. So I can't say that this is who he really is, but he does reference these people, and that makes me think that he's willing to talk to them about it. He claims to be a U.S. Army lieutenant colonel, retired, and he was an Iraq and Afghan vet and wounded warrior. He has that, and he's followed by General Flynn, which is always good. That's who he claims to be, which sounds pretty impressive to me, actually. So he says, I know Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman from a combined U.S.-Russian exercise called Atlas Vision 12 in Grafenwöhler, Germany. He worked with the Russian embassy, and I was assigned to the JMTC, which is and I guess that's him right there, supposedly. And that's the Joint Multinational Training Command within the U.S. Army Europe. He worked coordination with the Russian 15th Peacekeeping Brigade, and I was in charge of all simulations planning, as well as assisting the U.S. Army Europe lead planner as the senior military planner. The following account of Lieutenant Colonel Vindman's words and actions are completely accurate to the best of my recollection and have been corroborated by others. We interacted on several different occasions throughout the planning cycle, but it was during the actual execution of the exercise that we had an issue relevant to his recent testimony. As stated earlier, Atlas Vision 12 was conducted at JMTC in the VBS-2, Virtual Battle Simulations 2, classrooms for simulation. Vindman, who was a major at the time, was sitting in one of the classrooms talking to the U.S. and Russian soldiers, as well as the young officers and GS employees about America, Russia, and Obama. He was apologetic of American culture, laughed about Americans not being educated or worldly, and really talked up Obama and globalism to the point of uncomfortable. He would speak with the Russian soldiers and laugh as if at the expense of the U.S. personnel. It was so uncomfortable and unprofessional, one of the GS employees came and told me everything above. I walked over and sat within earshot of Vindman, and sure enough, all was confirmed. One comment truly struck me as odd, and it was with respect to Americans falsely thinking they are exceptional, when he said he, as in Obama, is working on that now. And he said it with a snide, I know a secret look on his face. I honestly don't know what it meant. It just sounded like an odd thing to say. Regardless, after hearing him bash America a few more times in front of subordinates, Russians and GS employees, as well as hearing an earful about globalization, Obama's plan, etc., I'd had enough. I tapped him on the shoulder and asked him to step outside. At that point, I verbally reprimanded him for his actions, and I'll leave it at that, so as not to be unprofessional myself. The bottom line is Lieutenant Colonel Vindman was a partisan Democrat at least as far back as 2012, so much so, junior officers and soldiers felt uncomfortable around him. This is not your professional field-grade officer who has the character and integrity to do the right thing. Do not let the uniform fool you. He is a political activist in uniform. I pray our nation will drop this hate, vitriol, and division and unite as our founding fathers intended. And then he says, I need to make a slight correction on my statement. It was actually Atlas Vision 13 when the incident occurred. I was thrown off as the next year Russia invaded Crimea. Also, I was promoted to Chief Regional Joint and Combined Exercises Branch for the U.S. Army in Europe over many exercises. So, again, I can't verify that this person is who he claims to be, but it does sound like he probably is. And so I wanted to point that out to you. And this was actually, he said this back in October 31st, because that's when I think that they were discussing him and there were bits and pieces of what he had said that had been leaked to the media. So anyway, I think it's very interesting. I'd like to hear more from this guy if he is who he really says he is. But again, I'm telling you, I can't verify that's who he is. But I thought it was worth letting you know what he had to say. And during Vindman's testimony, at one point, I think it was Devin Nunes or Jim Jordan, somebody called him Mr. instead of by Lieutenant Colonel, and he got all bent out of shape about it. Well, Bongino says this, I don't recall ever in my working life demanding anyone refer to me as officer or special agent, ever. Vindman was really being, a jerk about it, and people on Twitter were calling him a lot worse. So that was kind. All right, I wanted to share this one with you because if you happen to have seen one of the posts from the 17th letter of the alphabet today, he mentioned there is no step 5. This is what he's talking about, just in case you missed it. And this was a tweet from Adam Schiff back in February 11th of 2019. And he said, Step 1, hype an invented threat of an invasion of terrorists, murderers, and rapists. Step 2, send troops to border to address the imaginary threat. Step 3, justify the wall as necessary to protect troops sent to meet the non-existent threat. Step 4, executive time. Well, that's what he was trying to peddle back then. And even now, if you look at that, they still had steps for what they're doing now. You can't tell me that they didn't have it planned out. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you just so you'd have it. Remember, I'm going to put the links to all these down below. Here was one by Don Jr. Now, in order to do this, I've got to go here first and show you. AFP News Agency came out and had this breaking thing today. More than 100,000 children in migration-related U.S. detention. And then they came back and they said, AFP is withdrawing this story. The author of the report has clarified that his figures do not represent the number of children currently in migration-related U.S. detention, but the total of number of children in migration-related U.S. detention in 2015. We will delete the story. Well, Don Jr., he comes back and he says this, so you're deleting the story because it actually looks good for Trump? I just want to make sure we're clear because you look like a bunch of morons. Why wouldn't you correct and leave it up? I guess that would be too much real news, jokers. That's just what they do. Anyway, and then I wanted to share this one from the ACLU with you because, yes, ladies, there's no one way to be a man. Men who get their periods are men. I mean, serious. How can you... I'm sorry, it just boggles my mind. It really does. Men who get pregnant and give birth are men. Oh, what a crazy world we live in, folks. Oh, my goodness. And then I have to leave you with something fun. And it happens to be #Fartgate. I'm sorry, I just can't let it pass. And I really would like to be able to do this with a straight face, but I know this isn't going to work because I've been kind of laughing about it all day. This morning I woke up and I like to look at all the videos, the new ones that are coming out. And the first one I saw was Mark Dice, and he addressed it. And then there was one by John Ward who addressed it and called it, what here is here, Fartacus. I am Fartacus. Okay. So anyway, if you don't know the situation, if you haven't followed, Eric Swalwell was doing an interview with Chris Matthews on Hardball, whatever it's called, on Hardball. And in the course of him speaking, there is a little pause, and then there is a very loud fart. Okay? It is very loud. And he denies it was him, but it has been the source of many, many jokes on Twitter today. And if you just put in hashtag Fartgate, you will see a whole list of things. This was one somebody did. Now, I'm going to play this for you, but remember, the picture may be a little, I mean, they put a cloud behind him, okay? So that part is doctored, but the sound is not, okay? So here we go. Let me get this for you.
Taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help them cheat an election. And the complaint that I've heard from
Okay, like I said, the sound is real. The cloud behind him is not. But if you go through here, I mean, some of these are just hysterical. And it's like, I cannot believe that our entire country is talking about this. This is what we have been reduced to. Oh, but some of them are pretty clever and funny. This one, he thinks that it was actually Chris Matthews that did it, but he calls it the Gassy knoll. And so, I mean, there were several of them like that. The more you looked for them, it just was hysterical. I mean, sometimes you just gotta laugh. Hardball, that's what it is. Hardball with Chris Matthews. And so, of course, Swalwell denies that he did it, but it really does kind of look like he's the one. And so, they're trying to blame everything else, like a mug, calling it the fart heard round the world. So, I don't know. It is too funny. It's just hysterical. I mean, it really is. That People magazine is posting about it. When you think about it, it's just like, really? It's a fart. Everybody farts. Come on. But it was so obvious. Here he is trying to be all serious and everything. And it just came out. So I'm sorry for being juvenile on this one, but I just had to. It's Swalwell. If it was somebody I liked, I may not have done this, but I had to say something about it, folks. I just had to, because you know what? There's an awful lot of sad things going on in our world. And one thing you got to do every day, if you possibly can, find something to laugh about. And Eric Swalwell's a good one to laugh about. Oh, okay. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I hope I can get through tomorrow. We'll see what happens, because we've got 3 days in a row with all of these hearings, and it's just so much. It's not normally so bad, but I could rest in between, and I like to watch them after they're done so I can put them on double speed, especially with the Democrats. It's the best way of listening to them. But my problem is that I'm also trying to get my novel edited, and I'm working really hard on that, and it's just, it's adding a lot more onto my plate, and the chronic fatigue syndrome is not handling it well. So I'm trying to rest as much as I can, and I have a little surprise that I will let you know about in about a week, maybe, I think. Maybe I'll let you know on Thanksgiving Day, okay? So anyway, that'll be a special something for you. And that's taking a little bit of my time too, but that's kind of the fun part. Anyway, so that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and don't forget to laugh. I'll see y'all later.